Cosmo Lang, the Archbishop of Canterbury, who is best remembered for his part in the abdication crisis of 1936, was a jangle of warring personalities which never reached a working agreement among themselves, something William Orpen noticed after he was engaged to paint his portrait. "I see 7 archbishops. Which of them am I to paint?" he said. In the end, he decided to paint the least attractive. The portrait shows a conceited, vain, and aloof character, and most of Lang's friends and contemporaries said so. But not everyone was unkind in their assessment. One of them was Nathan Soderblom, a saintly Lutheran bishop. "That is what the devil meant him to be," he said, "but thanks be to God, it is not so." And speaking of assessments and portraits, Gertrude Stein was painted by Picasso. She sat for him for something like 90 times. Yet even after all those sittings, Picasso felt he couldn't get her head quite right, and so he left the portrait incomplete. He eventually did finish it, but without Stein sitting in front of him. When it was unveiled, someone said, "But she's not like that." To which Picasso replied, "She will be." Somehow he'd seen beneath the facade and beyond the reputation to the real person, one who had not yet fully come of age. This morning's reading from Hebrews gives us an heroic and holy roll call. Rahab, Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, David, Samuel. We're told that through faith they conquered kingdoms, administered justice, obtained promises, shut the mouths of lions, quenched raging fire, escaped the edge of the sword, won strength out of weakness, became mighty in war, put foreign armies to flight. But we're not like that, and we can't be. Yet we can try to be a little more like Jesus, the perfect image of our imperfect humanity. We're all familiar with the phrase, "What would Jesus do?" Usually it's asked in a flippant and even shallow way, and answered in similarly flippant and shallow ways. He'd welcome everyone. He'd tell us to love one another. He'd make sure the wine never ran out at the party. But that's not what Jesus would do. He'd give up his life for his friends, trusting that by doing so he would also have life, and have it abundantly. All things we don't want to hear or do. So we don't. By and large, we don't do a very good job of living Christ-like lives, which is why we're often criticized for not practicing what we preach. You're not like that, we're told. That's true. But I don't mean to be flippant when I say the only answer we can give is, "I will be." It won't be today, but someday the person who bears the divine image but who hides in secret and shame will come to light. Someday, the jangle of warring personalities within each of us will be reconciled into one harmonious and beautiful whole. In the meantime, we must strive to bring order to these disparate and conflicting sides of ourselves, so that we can say of one another, "This is what the devil meant us to be, but thanks be to God, it is not so." Our reading from Hebrews speaks also of that kind of striving. It speaks of running with perseverance the race that is set before us. But just like last week, I take exception with the writer of Hebrews, because life's as much of a process of becoming as it is a race, whereas the point of a race is the finish line. The point of a journey is the point. The trouble for you and me is that the journey of faith so often seems more like a forced march than a dance of joy, which is why I'm suspicious of saccharine, smiling, self-satisfied Christians who've got it together, whose life of faith is unalloyed joy, who've apparently never been tempted to quit. Because we all have. Yet we stick with it, if for no other reason than faith in the wild, improbable hope that slow and steady wins the race. Perfection is not of this world. But perfection is of the one who comes to us in this holy hour, the one who, for the sake of the joy that was set before him, endured the cross. And in that endurance, he was made perfect and became the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. Not for nothing do they say, practice makes perfect.